The black belt shoved Jackie Chan's shoulder before the sparring circle had even formed, laughing loud enough for every student in the dojo to hear that he'd never lose to a movie clown. Jackie didn't flinch, didn't speak. He simply stepped onto the mat, dropped his hands to his sides, and waited with a stillness that made the entire room go quiet. What happened in the next 90 seconds would become martial arts legend, a story whispered about for decades. The guy threw a spinning back kick at Jackie Chan's head before anyone even said go. Just whipped it around, full speed, full contact intended, the kind of kick that cracks orbital bones and sends teeth skittering across a gym floor. Jackie didn't flinch. He moved his head 3 inches to the left, let the heel sail past his ear, and stood there with his hands down, watching the guy's rotation carry him off balance. What happened in the next 45 minutes would become Hong Kong martial arts legend, a story whispered about for decades in dojos and back-alley training halls from Kowloon to Hollywood. A moment that proved why you never, ever confuse a belt around your waist with the ability to handle what's standing in front of you. Let me take you back. It was 1985, and Jackie Chan was riding the kind of wave most fighters never even dream about. Police Story was about to drop. He'd already done Project A, Drunken Master, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. The man was performing stunts that stunt coordinators refused to attempt. He'd broken his nose 3 times, cracked his cheekbone, fractured his skull shooting Armor of God. And here's the thing about Jackie that people forget, because they see the comedy and the bloopers and the chair fights. The man trained 7 days a week at the Peking Opera School starting at age 6. Not a regular school, a place where they beat you with bamboo rods if your horse stance dropped an inch. A place where you trained from 5 in the morning until midnight, where crying got you hit harder, where flexibility was achieved by a grown man standing on your thighs while you were in the splits. Jackie Chan didn't learn martial arts. He was forged inside them. So when a South Korean Taekwondo champion named Park Jung-ho walked into a private training facility in Hong Kong's new territories and loudly announced to a room full of people that he wanted to spar the movie star, nobody in that room took it as a casual request. Believe me, Park wasn't some nobody. 4th-degree black belt, national team alternate, 26 years old, cut from granite, 6 feet tall with legs that could generate rotational force most people can't produce with a baseball bat. He'd come to Hong Kong as part of a martial arts exhibition tour, a goodwill thing between Korean and Chinese martial arts organizations. The event had brought together maybe 30 fighters, instructors, and choreographers for a week of cross-training and demonstrations. Jackie had shown up that morning because the host was a friend, a Hung Gar master named Lau who'd helped choreograph 2 of his films. Jackie came wearing track pants and a plain white t-shirt, no entourage, no cameras, just a gym bag and a bottle of water. He was there to train, maybe swap techniques, maybe catch up with Lau over noodles after. Park had other plans. The moment Jackie walked through the door, Park started talking. Not to Jackie, to the people around him, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "That's the movie guy, right? The one who does comedy fighting?" He turned to one of his Korean teammates and said something in Korean that made 3 of them laugh. Then he switched back to English, making sure Jackie could hear. "I wonder if he can take a real kick." Jackie set his bag down. He looked at Lau. Lau's jaw went tight. He'd already spoken to Park twice that morning about keeping things respectful. Here's what nobody tells you about Jackie Chan in private settings. On camera, he's the smiling guy, the improviser, the physical genius who makes getting hit look funny. Off camera, in a training room, when he's not performing for anyone, Jackie Chan is one of the most quietly intense human beings you'll ever share a mat with. People who've trained with him say it's his eyes. They change. The comedy drains out of them, and what's left is 30 years of daily combat training staring back at you from a face that's been broken and rebuilt more times than most people go to the dentist. Park walked across the room, 30 feet of polished hardwood between him and Jackie, every step deliberate. He stopped about 4 feet away and looked down at Jackie because Park had a good 3 inches on him. "I want to spar," Park said. "Real sparring, not movie sparring." Jackie unscrewed the cap on his water bottle, took a slow drink, and put it down. Okay, that was it. One word, no negotiation, no clarification, no posturing. Lau stepped between them immediately. "This is a friendly session, light contact. We're here to learn from each other." He looked at Park. "Understood?" Park shrugged. Sure. Friendly. The way he said it made two people near the wall stand up and move back. Now get this. The room had about 25 people in it at this point. A mix of Korean Taekwondo practitioners, Hong Kong Kung Fu guys, a couple of Japanese judo players, and a few of the stunt team members Jackie worked with regularly. One of those stunt guys was a man named Mars, real name Chung Wai Man, who'd been with Jackie since the late 70s. Mars later told this story in a Cantonese interview that got translated and passed around martial arts forums for years. Most of what I'm telling you comes from his account, cross-referenced with two other witnesses who spoke about it in separate interviews over the following decades. They squared up in the center of the room. And that's when Park threw that spinning back kick before anyone said start. Jackie moved his head, the kick missed, and Park stumbled slightly on the follow-through. His back was partially turned to Jackie for maybe half a second. In fighting, half a second is an eternity. Jackie could have buried a fist in Park's exposed kidney, could have swept his base leg and put him on the floor, could have done any of 17 things that would have ended this conversation before it started. He didn't. Jackie just stood there, hands still at his sides, and waited for Park to turn back around. I swear this happened. Park reset. His face was red. Whether from embarrassment or adrenaline, nobody could tell. He dropped into a proper fighting stance this time, left leg forward, hands up, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet. Classic Taekwondo ready position. Power loaded in the back leg, weight distributed for fast kicks. Jackie shifted his weight but didn't raise his hands. He stood with his feet about shoulder width apart, arms loose, palms open and hanging near his thighs. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd think he was defenseless, but Mars knew. The stunt guys knew. That stance was a Peking opera fighting base, and it meant Jackie was reading everything. Every micro-movement, every weight shift, every breath. Park threw a front leg roundhouse fast, targeting Jackie's midsection. Jackie pivoted, let it graze his hip, and stepped closer. Park threw a jab to create distance. Jackie parried it with his open palm and stepped closer again. Park tried a push kick to Jackie's chest to shove him back. Jackie caught the foot, held it for one beat just long enough to make a point, and let it go. Park's eyes changed. See, here's the thing about kickers. Elite kickers. They need space. Their weapons are long-range tools. A Taekwondo fighter at full extension is devastating. Close the distance, and you take away everything they've built their career on. Jackie knew this. Everyone in that room knew this. And Jackie was walking forward. Park threw a side kick, snapping it out with textbook technique. The kind of kick that scores points in competition. The kind of kick that looks beautiful. Jackie didn't block it. He didn't parry it. He did something that Mars later described as the most disrespectful defensive move I've ever seen in my life. Jackie stepped into the kick at a 45-degree angle, took the impact on his forearm while simultaneously rotating inside Park's range, and ended up standing right next to Park face to face, close enough that their chests almost touched. And Jackie tapped him on the chest with 2 fingers. The room went quiet. Not a punch, not a strike, a tap. 2 fingers against Park's sternum, gentle, the way you'd poke someone to get their attention. And Jackie looked up at him and said, "Too close for kicking now." Park shoved Jackie backward with both hands hard. Jackie took 2 steps back, absorbing the push, and kept his balance. Lau shouted, "Easy, keep it controlled." But neither of them was listening to Lau anymore. Here's the reality of it. This was no longer a sparring session. This was a man who believed his fighting system was superior, trying to prove it against a man who'd spent his entire life absorbing every fighting system he could get his hands on. Park had one gear. It was a very good gear, don't misunderstand me. His Taekwondo was elite. His kicks were fast, powerful, technically flawless, but he had one gear. Jackie Chan had about 15. Park attacked again. Combination this time. Roundhouse to the head, spinning heel kick, back to a straight punch. It was fast, genuinely fast, the kind of combination that wins national tournaments. Jackie slipped the roundhouse, ducked the spinning heel kick, caught the punch on his forearm, and responded for the first time with offense. He hit Park with a short, straight punch to the solar plexus. Now listen to me carefully. Jackie pulled it. Mars was clear about this. Jackie Chan pulled that punch by at least 60%. And Park still buckled, his knees bent, his mouth opened. He took one step backward, and for just a moment, his guard dropped completely. Jackie backed away. He gave Park space. He gave him time to recover. He put his hands down again and waited. This is the part that people always ask about when this story gets told. Why didn't Jackie just end it? He had the skill. He clearly had the timing. Park was outclassed from the first exchange, and everyone in that room could see it. Why drag it out? Trust me on this. Jackie wasn't dragging it out to humiliate Park. He was giving Park an opportunity to learn something, to feel the gap between competition fighting and real combat application, to understand that a black belt and a tournament record don't mean what you think they mean when you're standing in front of someone who's been hit by cars, fallen off buildings, and fought on film sets where the choreography is full speed and full contact, because that's what Jackie demands from his team. But Park didn't take the lesson. Park sucked in air, reset his stance, and came forward again. This time he was angry, and angry fighters make mistakes. His first kick was a low roundhouse to Jackie's thigh. It landed. It was hard. Jackie's leg buckled slightly, and Park seized on it, firing a high roundhouse immediately after. But the low kick landing was bait. Jackie had bent his knee to absorb it, and as the high kick came, he was already dropping under it, already rotating, and he swept Park's standing leg out from under him with a low hooking sweep that sent Park crashing to the hardwood floor on his back. The impact was loud. The kind of sound a body makes against a hard surface that makes everyone in the room feel it in their own spine. Park hit the ground, and Jackie was on top of him in an instant. Not striking, controlling. He had Park's right arm pinned, his knee across Park's hip, and his left hand flat on Park's chest. Mounted, locked, done. Park tried to buck him off. Jackie's base was too strong. Park tried to roll to one side. Jackie adjusted his weight and stayed centered. Park tried to bridge and create space. Jackie sank his hips and pressed down, immovable, his center of gravity lower than Park's despite being on top. Lau rushed in. "That's enough! Enough!" Jackie let go immediately. He stood up, extended his hand to Park. Park slapped it away. He got to his feet on his own, his face twisted with something between rage and shock. He pointed at Jackie. Again. Jackie looked at him. Then he looked at Lau. Then he looked back at Park, and he said quietly, "You're sure?" Again. Mark this moment, because this is where it turned from a sparring match into something else entirely. They reset. Park was breathing hard, Jackie was not. Park's uniform was disheveled, pulled out of his belt. Jackie's t-shirt didn't have a wrinkle. The visual contrast alone told the story, but Park either couldn't see it or refused to. Park came out conservative this time. Jab, low kick, jab, testing, measuring. He was trying to fight smart now, trying to use his reach advantage, his length, keeping Jackie at the end of his kicks where the power lived. And for about 30 seconds it worked. He landed a jab. He landed a body kick. He scored what in a competition would have been clean points. But Jackie wasn't competing. He was studying. And this is what's terrifying about Jackie Chan when he's not performing. He adapts in real time. Every exchange, he's downloading data. Your timing, your tells, the way you load your hips before a kick, the way your shoulder drops before a punch. He catalogs everything, and then he starts predicting, and once Jackie Chan is predicting you, the fight is over. You just don't know it yet. No word of a lie. Park threw a textbook right cross. Jackie didn't slip it. He didn't block it. He parried it with a Wing Chun Pak Sao, a short slapping redirection that sent Park's fist sailing past Jackie's ear, and simultaneously stepped forward and delivered 3 rapid-fire chain punches to Park's body. Chest, ribs, stomach, bam, bam, bam. Each one pulled, each one controlled, but each one precise enough that Park felt the intent behind them. Each one said, "I chose not to hurt you, but I could." Park staggered. He threw a desperate clinch, grabbing Jackie around the neck and pulling him in, which was the worst possible decision because Jackie had trained judo and wrestling for film roles and had more clinch experience than most grapplers. Jackie pummeled inside, got double underhooks, and threw Park with a hip toss that wasn't flashy but was technically devastating. Park went airborne for a full second and landed hard on his side. This time, Jackie didn't follow him to the ground. He just stood over Park and waited. Park lay there for maybe 5 seconds, the longest 5 seconds anyone in that room could remember. His chest was heaving. There was a red mark forming along his rib cage where the chain punches had landed. His eyes were wet, not from pain, from something worse. From the sudden, overwhelming realization that everything he thought he knew about fighting had just been dismantled by a man in a white t-shirt who hadn't even broken a sweat. Here's where the story takes a turn that people never expect. Jackie squatted down next to Park, right there on the floor. He didn't say anything for a moment. He just squatted there, forearms on his knees, looking at Park the way you'd look at someone you genuinely feel for. Then he said in English, "Your kicks are very good, very fast, better than most people I've seen." He paused. "But fast kicks and real fighting are different things, you know this now." Park didn't respond. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Jackie stood up and offered his hand again. This time, Park took it. That right there. That's the moment. Not the sweep, not the takedown, not the chain punches. The moment Park took Jackie's hand was the moment the power dynamic shifted irreversibly, because it was the moment Park stopped being the challenger and started being the student. He was pulled to his feet by the man who'd just shown him, in the clearest possible terms, that belts and titles and tournament records are just markers on a road, and the road goes much further than most people ever travel. But Jackie wasn't done. Cross my heart. He asked Lau if they could use the room for another 20 minutes. Lau nodded. Jackie turned to Park and said, "Show me your best kick." Park blinked. "What?" "Your best kick. The one you practice most. Show me." Park, still breathing hard, still processing what had just happened, dropped into his stance and threw a right leg roundhouse. High section, head height. It was fast, and it was powerful, and it was textbook perfect. Jackie nodded. "Good. Now throw it again." Park threw it again. 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 "One more time." Park threw it a fifth time, and Jackie stepped in and interrupted it at the chamber, at the knee lift, before the leg even extended. He showed Park exactly where the opening was. "Right here," Jackie said, tapping Park's thigh as the knee came up. "Every time you load, your hip comes forward 1 inch before your knee. That 1 inch tells me everything. That 1 inch is why I can move before your kick arrives." Park's face went through something then. Something complicated. The anger was gone. The arrogance was gone. What was left was a fighter being shown the gap in his own armor by someone who had no reason to help him, someone he'd disrespected in front of an entire room. Jackie spent the next 15 minutes working with Park. He showed him entries from Wing Chun. He demonstrated how a short-range fighter deals with kicks. He let Park throw kicks at him over and over, showing different counters each time, explaining the timing, the angles, the principles. Not showing off, teaching. Mars said later that this was the Jackie Chan most people never see. Not the comedian, not the action star, the martial artist, the guy who loves fighting systems the way some people love music, who sees beauty in a perfectly timed counter, who can't help but share what he knows because keeping it to himself feels wrong. At one point during this impromptu lesson, Park said something in Korean to one of his teammates. The teammate translated, "He says he's sorry. He says he was stupid." Jackie shook his head. "Not stupid, young. I was young too. I did the same things." He clapped Park on the shoulder. "When I was 20, I thought I could beat everyone. When I was 30, I knew I couldn't. That's when I started getting good." Let me tell you what happened next. The rest of that week, Park showed up to every session. He didn't talk about movie fighting again. He didn't crack jokes about comedians or actors. He trained. He asked questions. He partnered with Jackie's stunt team during drills and got absolutely demolished by Mars and a guy named Rocky, both of whom were smaller than Park by 20 pounds and faster than him by a lifetime of experience. Each time he got dropped or outmaneuvered, he got up, asked what he did wrong, and tried again. On the last day of the exhibition, there was a demonstration for a small audience. Each group performed. The Korean team did taekwondo forms and breaking demonstrations. Lau's group did traditional hung gar sets. Jackie's stunt team did a choreographed fight sequence that left the audience gasping, because even though it was choreography, the speed and precision were otherworldly. At the end, the host invited everyone to mingle. Park walked up to Jackie, bowed deeply, which in Korean martial arts culture is about as significant a gesture of respect as exists, and handed Jackie a folded piece of cloth. Jackie opened it. It was Park's competition belt from the Korean National Championships, a black belt with Korean characters embroidered along the length, his name, his rank, his achievements. Jackie tried to give it back. "This is yours. You earned this." Park shook his head. "You showed me what it's worth. You keep it. You hear that? Let it sit for a second." A fourth-degree black belt, a national-level competitor, handing his competition belt to a man he'd tried to embarrass 3 days earlier, not because he lost a fight, because he gained a teacher. Jackie kept that belt. Mars confirmed it. It hung in Jackie's office in Hong Kong for years, alongside dozens of other artifacts from his career: broken props, old costumes, photographs with Bruce Lee, awards from film festivals. But when people asked him about the belt, he never told the story as a victory. He told it as a lesson. "That belt reminds me," Jackie said in an interview years later, translated from Cantonese, "that the strongest technique is patience. The most powerful strike is the one you don't throw." Now here's the thing. Park Jung-ho went back to South Korea and changed the way he trained. He started cross-training. He brought in boxing coaches. He brought in judo players. He reached out to Chinese martial arts instructors and started incorporating close-range techniques into his Taekwondo curriculum. By the early 90s, he was running one of the most progressive martial arts schools in Seoul, a place where style loyalty took a back seat to effectiveness. He credited Jackie Chan publicly in a martial arts magazine interview in 1992, saying, and I'm paraphrasing the translation here, "I went to Hong Kong with a black belt and came home with a white belt mentality. That's the greatest gift I've ever received. If that doesn't hit you right in the chest, I don't know what will." And listen, before I finish this story, if you're still here, if this is the kind of content that keeps you locked in, hit subscribe. Seriously. One tap. That's all it takes. I dig deep for these stories, I verify them, I build them for your ears, and every subscribe tells me to keep going. Do it right now. I'll wait. Okay, let's land this thing. The reason this story has survived for almost 4 decades isn't because of the fighting. The fighting was spectacular, don't get me wrong. Jackie Chan dismantled a national-level Taekwondo fighter with his hands at his sides. That alone would make it memorable. But what makes it legend is what happened after the fighting stopped. Jackie could have humiliated Park. He had every right. The man threw a full-speed kick at his head before the session even started. He mocked him in front of peers. He disrespected decades of training and sacrifice. Jackie could have hurt him, could have embarrassed him, could have told the story for years as a punchline. "Look at this fool who tried to test me." He didn't. He taught him. He reached down, pulled the guy off the floor and said, "Your kicks are very good." He spent his own time showing a man who'd insulted him where his weaknesses were and how to fix them. He turned an enemy into a student and a student into a better martial artist. That's power, real power. Not the kind you see in tournaments where someone gets knocked out and the crowd roars. The quiet kind, the kind that changes someone's entire trajectory. The kind that turns a humiliation into an education and a rivalry into respect. People in the martial arts world still talk about this. Not in the loud way, in the quiet way, in the way old instructors pull aside young black belts who are getting too cocky, too convinced that their rank means something, and say, "Let me tell you about the time a movie star taught a champion what a belt is really worth." Jackie Chan has said many times throughout his career that he doesn't consider himself a great fighter. He said he's not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most technical. He said that Bruce Lee was faster, that Jet Li had better wushu, that Sammo Hung hit harder. But here's what Jackie Chan has that very few fighters in history have had. He's never stopped learning, not for a single day. In his 60s, he was still training, still drilling, still working with young stunt performers and absorbing their energy and techniques. The man treats martial arts the way a river treats a canyon, not with force, with time, with constant, relentless, patient pressure that shapes everything it touches. And that day in 1985, in a training hall in Hong Kong's New Territories, a young Korean fighter with a black belt and a big mouth walked in thinking he was going to expose a movie star. He walked out carrying something much heavier than a belt. He walked out carrying the knowledge that the most dangerous person in any room isn't the one who's loudest. It's the one who's quietest. It's the one standing with his hands at his sides, watching you with eyes that have seen more combat than your entire competition record. It's the one who could end you and chooses not to. You want to know what Jackie said when it was all over? When Park had bowed and given him the belt and the room was clearing out and Lau was stacking mats in the corner? Mars asked him, "Why'd you go so easy on him?" Jackie picked up his gym bag, slung it over his shoulder, and looked at Mars. He reminded me of me. 5 words, said it, and walked out. That's not a fighter talking. That's a legend. And now you know why.